I knew it. Never a doubt. Dallas 36, Carolina 28. I would like to officially welcome all bandwagon fans right now to this Cowboys bandwagon. That, as we have seen over the years, some stay, most don't when times get tough. These two guys stay for some crazy reason. But welcome. The bandwagon haul has officially begun. Your Dallas football Cowboys victors over the hard-fought Carolina Panthers. We'll break this one down. A lot to get to. You can follow us. We're streaming this one live on YouTube and the Facebook, appealing to Skateboard Man and your mother-in-law and uncle's favorite platforms. But you can catch us on Twitter, Texas Porch Pod, 24/7 on the Mitch Designed, the TexasPorch.com. With Josh Havard. Again, I am JP Heath. Josh, how about them Cowboys? That was one of them games where I wanted to scream that out. That third quarter made the difference. I guess I asked you 9 things at once, but A, how are you? And B, how about them Cowboys? So I minimized it to 2 questions for you.
Well, it's been a full day since I talked to you, so I'm still doing pretty good. Your Sal's won last night. The Cowboys won this afternoon. Put together, looked really good today. So for at least a good portion of it, and third quarter looked great. So after today, I can definitively say the Cowboys are the best team in Texas after that 40-0 Texans loss to the Bills.
Yes, if there was a doubt beforehand.
I just had to get a shot in it, the unsolicited shot at the Texans for actually losing 40-0. That's tough in today's NFL not to score. But Cowboys have kind of mastered that scoring part so far this year. The defense is on and off, but overall, just a good win against a team that was undefeated. I know no McCaffrey, which makes a difference, but just a good day.
Yeah, I don't want to start a fight early, but I would disagree and say the defense has really been on for most of the season. They have their lapses in their spells, like you saw the 2 drives, maybe not coincidentally. Maybe we can elaborate on this discussion later, but without Treyvon Diggs for those 2 series. But my big takeaway from this game, thank you, Dan Quinn. Kind of going with your counterpoint there. Dan Quinn has been marvelous. Dak had a low-key dominant game. Zeke, thank you, Zeke. Just the amazing game that he had. Welcome back, hey, Zeke. Welcome back to the club. Tony Pollard, you're still doing Tony Pollard things, but I guess I had 3 opening comments there. But my main one, if I had to say one, thank you, Dan Quinn. The defense supplemented the running game nicely, hard running. And, hey, 3-1, looking down at the bottom of those cellar dwellers in the NFC least, so to speak, it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah, defense came through for the most part today. They gave up a couple big runs to Darnold, which you don't really expect, although he's more athletic than he's got the Jet stigma there too. So anything he does kind of seems like a surprise, but he's been really good so far for Carolina. And Treyvon Diggs just outstanding. I'm sure we'll get to that later of exactly what that was late in the game whenever they gave up those 2 touchdowns. But overall, yeah, still in first place in the NFC East. I did see the Giants won today, so
yeah, overtime.
Yeah, only a game up on Washington football team, but whatever. If the Cowboys play like they can, they're not going to get caught by any of these teams. So I don't think there's any reason to really be scoreboard watching unless some kind of disaster happens and they go down a hole.
All right, here's the recap. First things first, Christian McCaffrey, it was obviously a huge deal. He was out going in, like you referenced at the start. I mean, you have the perennial MVP candidate, like he'll be the next few seasons, out. That makes a big difference. But Chuba Howard did not play bad in his stead.
Better say Hubbard or Jeff will get onto you.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking, sorry.
One of our top listeners. I guarantee you're going to get a text here in a year whenever he listens to it.
And I knew that too. I don't know why Howard slipped out there. I promise I did know that. But Dorrance Armstrong, Carlos Watkins out on the defensive line, safety Donovan Wilson out for the Pokes. Tank Lawrence still out for a while. And we find out on the second series that Amari Cooper was getting tended to, but he came back, obviously had the TD grab. That magnifies but it showed how deep the receiving core was too. Wilson had the big grab, and the tight ends helped a lot today too, but Michael Gallup still being out. But before we get to our recap, this was the battle of the coach that was right under Jerry Jones' nose versus the coach we're kind of stuck with in Mike McCarthy. And I don't mean stuck with necessarily in a bad thing, because Mike McCarthy has proven to run laps already around Jason Garrett from the coaching department. But I was all in favor of giving Matt Rule a go. But when you have Jerry, again, not a podcast pointing out the faults of Jerry, we all know those. And they're on kind of endearing over the years. We've gotten used to the last 25 years or so. But Matt Rule, he can coach some ball, and Carolina lost its first game. But give Mike McCarthy his due in this one. This was there are a few things to pick on, but it was still a well-coached game. So they trade 3 and outs to start the game on their first drives. Randy Gregory gets a sack on the Cowboys' first defensive possession. He was in the backfield a lot this afternoon. And I say this afternoon, refreshingly, we got to see how the other half lives on the NFL fandom. The first of few noon games this season. I really love that, how playing a noon game, you have to adjust your pre-church and post-church schedule to get to things. But a side note before I really get rolling here, nice to see an early start time for a change. But Dallas at second drive, a big Dak scramble on a botch snap. The offense was out of sync early on the first couple of drives, Josh, but Zeke had a good run. There was that late release to Schultz. He was wide open. The defensive lineman could not close that space to get to Dak in time before he found our boy Dalton. But then Pollard, a first down run inside the 10. But then Zeke has the short touchdown run, 7-0, about halfway through the first quarter. And I'm thinking, oh no, just like last week, they're going to go to the review, but he did get in by enough, like an extra foot or so, where it wasn't so debatable. But getting that early score, I know it's Captain Obvious, but getting points on the board early, I'm in favor of that. So you're not playing from behind. I think that totally sets the mindset up. It opens the playbook up, and it allows you to be more aggressive from a defensive side. And they got that early offensive burst, as we would see later on in the some in the first half, and that good start in the second half.
Kind of works for the whole team in general. I mean, it's kind of dumb to say, yeah, you like to get ahead, because who doesn't like to get ahead? But it really does help the Cowboys with the way they run their whole game plan, because they like to get their ground game going. You get the early lead. It doesn't trick you into thinking you got to throw the whole game. And then plus it lets the defense settle in, maybe be a little bit more aggressive to get going. So yeah, the Cowboys are definitely a team that I think thrives out of doing that. And it's been so many years, including last year, where there's so many games where midway through the first quarter, it's 14-0. And then you get in a panic mode and you go ahead and start throwing 55 times a game. And that's despite, Dak will put up 450 yards and 5 touchdowns those games, and they'll lose 45-41. So you don't want to get into those. These are, not like today was this really low scoring game. It's 36-28, but it plays in the hands of Dallas with their run game. Just lets them do everything that they would want to do without having to press and kind of change the game plan, which, since the first week, they've really been able to run the ball and not have to rely on passing it just so much like they did against Tampa Bay.
So there you go. We've established we're taking that radical opinion that it's good to score points early in a game and call the touchdown plays. But Carolina comes back and they tie it up. DJ Moore, an amazing grab to stay balanced. And then Sam Darnold has the option run. So about 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Carolina ties it 7-7. And that doesn't contradict what we were just saying with Carolina tying it up. Dallas, virtue of the early offense and being aggressive early, they were not the chaser in this game. It was Carolina. There were some reviews on this next drive. It was wild. There was one that took about 5 minutes. Josh, I kind of gave it away already, but what's my number one sports pet peeve, as long as you know me, and the perks of the DVR? What would be one thing I would get rid of in sports?
The wave.
Well, okay, that too.
I know what you're going with. The chasing the points is what you're going for two.
That's another one. There's a third one.
There's a third one. I thought for sure this was going to be
I pretty much just gave you the answer talking about the 5-minute review.
Oh yeah, replay. You just would prefer to go totally away from replay, like just scrap it. Everybody else wants to expand it. You're the opposite. You're just like just nothing reviewable. Just play the game as it is, like 15 years ago.
Yeah, let's go. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not that drastic, but I'm more your direction as opposed to everybody that wants to make every single thing reviewable.
Yeah. But you did get two other good ones there, the wave and chasing the points, which we saw. Well, I don't know. Thankfully, they didn't show any of the dumb wave, but I would get rid of the wave and make it mandatory. All right, you can only go for one. How would this rule? I have a lot of radical sports rule ideas. You can't go for two unless it's the last 3 minutes of a ball game to prevent coaches from chasing points and all these sudden experts that always they think they're these analytical gurus that oh yeah, you got to go for two anyway. Now, see, you got me wound up there, Josh.
I know. I'm just gonna have to hope that your partner in Ross football isn't listening to this because you have to. I hear y'all going at it in the middle of games sometimes. And I'm just like, just go ahead. I'm all for y'all having it out, but yeah, we discussed this plenty. I just send you into a rage on Twitter by sending different ones about everybody saying they need to go for two here. I just send it, toss the bomb, and then let you go off on it.
You are the arsonist. You like starting those fires like you just did. You sent me on a couple-minute rant there. But so they had this big review. It took about 5 minutes. And the review there was that was the merits of a fumble or not. But then 2 plays later, and that was not a fumble. It was Dalton Schultz was the center of it. He did not fumble. It was really close, but it looked full speed that he didn't do it, and it turned out he didn't do it. But then 2 plays later, the Cowboys get a huge break. Matt Rule, because of one of these dumb technicalities, could not challenge it. I mean, he could, but he was not allowed to challenge it because forward progress was ruled that it was stopped on 86, Dalton Schultz. And here's an idea, Dalton Schultz anti-fan club that we've been in the past, but I'm trying to turn around that narrative that I like the guy. Because I'm sure he's a great guy, but hold on to the ball. He had a lot of incidents in today's game where he dropped the ball. There's even on that touchdown where he kind of tipped it around a little bit. But later, after hey, by the way, don't want to bury the Blake Jarwin touchdown catch on that drive. After Dak picks up the 4th and 2, by the way, everyone is covered. It was designed to be a passing play on 4th and 2, but Dak uses his legs. But then Jarwin is back, baby. He gets the touchdown. Schultz then gets the 2-point catch, barely gets over, or so we thought. Again, the worst part of sports, 3rd time on that drive, replay takes the conversion away. But Dallas, 13-7 lead over Carolina early in the second quarter. Carolina converts on the next drive on a 3rd and 12. This after Dallas declines. It was like a real head scratcher. I didn't understand that one. It would have made it 2nd and 27. Instead, they wanted it 3rd and 11. But Darnold converts on a run, and appropriately, he scores later on a 12-yard score. I didn't know this, that he leads the league in rushing touchdowns, at that point at least, with 5. First time that has ever been done, by the way, in that by a quarterback. But Carolina takes the lead 14-13 midway through the second quarter. There's a 2-minute drive by Dallas, and that stalls. Carolina gets it back with 3 timeouts, but nothing going for there. So we're at the half, and Carolina leads 14-13. And you know what time it is, Josh, by now. Despite having the ice cream sandwich in the first half, it was popcorn time. A kind of sort of shout out to old school TO, or I guess newer old school TO. So any other first half observations on Dallas? They were down in that first half, but I think knowing you well enough, you still felt pretty good about the game. What say you?
I felt pretty good. Like, I don't know. I'm so scorned by the Cowboys. Like whenever they don't get out to these being down 17-3 in the first quarter, then I feel pretty good about it. And this year, just the tone of the team seems like they're pretty good. So if they can get it to halftime and be close against good teams like the Panthers, I like their chances. I thought everything was kind of working. Not that it was working against the Panthers because they played pretty well in the first half, but the Cowboys didn't have anything that just showed real big concern. I mean, Darnold was running all over the place. But you kind of think that a guy like Darnold isn't going to totally go off and be Lamar Jackson or anything. So, you think you can kind of get that under control a little bit and get things going. I had no idea it was going to get going like it would so quickly after the break, but going into the half, I felt pretty good about him.
So in the second half, Carolina missed a 54-yard field goal attempt, and Dallas, its first possession of the second half, starting at their own 44. And it didn't take long. Amari Cooper, great job by the trainers in that first half when he was down for a little bit. He had a great catch, an even better throw from Dak, 35 yards, a dime. And interestingly enough, I'm synced up with the radio at this time. It was the first Cowboys opening drive of the third quarter to get a touchdown, and Dallas led 20-14, a lead that they would not relinquish. Dallas gets the Panthers off the field on third down. You had the combo sack from Golston and Odigizua. That's a name you bandwagon fans will need to learn how to spell if you're allowed to join on the Cowboys bandwagon, as it's going to be a cramped one here these next few weeks as the schedule is even more softer after this. It's really soft after this game. Carolina is a really good team, but Zeke has a 47-yard run on that drive, goes over 100 yards, and then the next play, a quarterback bootleg to my guy, the best tight end going in the NFL, tongue-in-cheek, Dalton Schultz. Cowboys chase the points. The 2-point try fails. Dallas 26 and Carolina 14, halfway through the third quarter. And then, Josh, we had the Treyvon Diggs show. Big time. Fourth straight game with a pick. Dallas gets the ball back. Here's trivia time. 16th time since the merger, a player has had a pick the first 4 games of the season. Everson Walls, like we talked about last week, that's the record he was chasing. They're rolling now, by the way. Cedric Wilson ended up, after they got the touchdown, they were up by 19. But then the next defensive drive, Diggs does it again. The ball hawk. Man, what a player he is. They later realize how much they miss him. And who is the last Cowboy, Josh, with 5 picks in one season? I don't think they had this on the TV broadcast, but Cowboys Twitter told me this while that was going on. So last Cowboy with 5 picks in one season. Don't try to overthink it, but what say you? In our lifetimes, in our friendship, I'll give you that hint.
Terrence Newman.
Very good.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember the year?
I wasn't thinking DeYoung, saying throwing him at him enough to get those, but yeah, I remember Terrence Newman. I had season tickets back whenever he was a part of the team, and he was good, but he wasn't good enough that people stayed away from him. So that's the trick of getting a lot of interceptions.
What year was that? Do you remember?
08 maybe.
You got the right ballpark. 2010.
Okay,
so
I knew it was somewhere in that area because when I was going to the games a little bit.
So field goal by leg after they got the ball back on Diggs, second picked 33-14. So start of the fourth quarter, and Micah Parsons gets a sack. There's that penalty on Casey for that unnecessary roughness. And it's amazing the times, these sensitive football times we live in, where I immediately saw that play and said, oh, that's brutal. But then I see the replay of it, and I'm like, man, that's 1995. Man, that's late 80s when you're really starting to gain full football consciousness. And at first I was like, stop whining out there, Casey. But he got the penalty, and I just don't understand life anymore. But that's the way they have legislated that type of physicalness out of the most brutal and physical games. I was befuddled at that one. Did you think it in real time it was a penalty like me that immediately back off? Or what did you think about that hit?
Watching enough NFL over the last few years, the second it happened, I knew it would be a penalty. Like, you just assume that that's going to be a penalty, and then you deal with whatever the replays or they say if it was or it wasn't after it. And after they showed it, I mean, it's not a penalty, but they're still in the NFL. They're going to call that 90% of the time, just because they go by what it looks like. And in real time, the refs have a hard job. Like, they're legislated to lean towards protecting the players, and wrong or right. Like, I was surprised that Blandino actually got on the TV broadcast and said it was a bad call, because I just assumed that they would come on and say that it wasn't, because it seems like anytime a receiver goes in the air and catches it, if you don't like let him come down and catch it and then gently tackle him, then it's going to be a penalty, because it's the defenseless receiver, which whatever. But that's just a long way of saying no, I don't think it was a good call. But at the same time, if it was the other way around, if it was either way, any game that you watched, any of the 16 games, NFL games today, they're going to call that about 98% of the time. And it's just a matter afterwards if the guy gets fined or not. The positive thing is, which we don't really care because it's the pro players and their money, but I'm sure he probably won't get fined for that after they see the replay. But that's going to continue to be a penalty until they change something about the rule, and they're not changing that rule anytime soon. So we can gripe about it. We can talk about the good old days, but it's just something you kind of have to live with in 2021 NFL.
And Carolina did score on that drive. It was 36-21 Dallas. I'm not really worried, but Diggs is out for the second straight series. I was a little more worried about that. I wasn't as much worried about the score. I thought, this isn't Jason Garrett Cowboys, sign of really average to below average coaching, where you always have to worry about a lead. I think we're scarred, rightfully so, of expecting the worst to happen. That was a heavy theme on our post-game pod last week, but I am a little worried about Diggs because he missed his second straight series for player management reasons. What is this? Greg Popovich coaching the Cowboys? What do we have? Load management, where they're just going to leave what is kind of grooming into one of the better corners, the top few corners in the NFL, at least from the pick stat. But I never heard of a reason for a player sitting out for player management. But 55 yards, they connect to Zylstra. Then they had the nice under route. This is Carolina, obviously. DJ Moore was wide open on that under route. And we have ourselves a ball game. It's Dallas 36, Carolina 28, 4:31 in the fourth quarter, but Dallas would buckle down its defense. And, of course, they run out the clock. They buckled down, getting the first downs they needed, had a Landry shift, and Dallas gets the win 36-28. So I thought Dak had, it seems like every talk show in Dallas, Fort Worth, and obviously we've seen it from the national perspective. Seems like the national guys talk more Dak than the local guys do, at least that I listen to up in Big D. But it was another game. He had 4 touchdown passes. That was the 5th time in his career that he has done that. And I thought he was great. That, again, is the type of game. What did he throw for, like 230, 245 last week? That's the type of game you needed to have from him. He used his legs a couple of times. He was balanced in that first half, but made the right throws. Being very nitpicky, as I am prone to do, as you know. I think I have some Dak biases. I'm trying to get out of there, not compare. I try not to compare him to days gone by quarterbacks, and I'll readily admit that I do that sometimes. I think that's the sign of being an old fogey. But Dak, man, I'm glad he's my quarterback. Early on, I had a point typed up that, yeah, see, this is the type of game when Darnold had that obviously better first half. I was like, yeah, this is the type of game where this is why I would rank so many ex-quarterbacks ahead of Dak. But then Dak was just slow and steady. The defense did its job and limited Darnold, and they made some great adjustments. And then Dak just pounding that rock. He just kept going and made the big throws. So I'm glad number 4 is on our side.
I know he's not flawless, but he's been pretty close to it this year. Like, I can't sit there watching too many games this year and think much that he's done all that bad. Like, he just makes the plays. He doesn't miss just a whole ton of throws. He might miss 1 or 2 a game, it seems like, and it's not even like it was a few years ago where he'd miss a couple big plays a game that would be what they need. He is just so on. Like, they're still so much better when they have the run game going in complement with him, as opposed to him going 48 of 61 passing. But he just seems to make all the plays that he needs to. He's the perfect top quarterback for this type of offense, where he does have all these weapons around him. But at the same time, he's the weapon as well. So it's not like all these other guys have to do all the plays for him. But when they're going like they've been going pretty much all year, especially once they got the offensive line, I guess it's not totally where they want it to be, but once they got pretty much everybody back on there and they're giving them protection, I mean, massive holes today for the running backs to go through as well. So it's just from Dak all the way up to the offensive line, receivers, running backs, that there's just not much that is totally wrong with the team. I mean, in your Schultz fandom,
it goes back and forth, doesn't it? It does.
Well, they can use. Well, the thing is, with that kind of offense, they can use a tight end who I think he's definitely a middle of the road to maybe slightly less, and he looks really good in the offense. But if this was on a Cowboys team from 5 years ago where they don't have all these guys, then you're totally making fun of Schultz again. And like, man, why is he even on the roster? But with everybody around, he makes these couple of catches where he's wide open and looks like a competent tight end.
So I'm scanning Cowboys Twitter looking for info on Treyvon Diggs. That was my next kind of post-recap topic. But I find this nugget on him. Bobby Belt of the Cowboys Beat releases this. Treyvon Diggs, one of 6 corners in the Super Bowl era. So don't you know when you hear that stat, ... that it's very impressive. No matter what comes after that ... that's very impressive. But one of 6 corners in the Super Bowl era, been going on a bit, to have 8 interceptions through his first 16 games. That is insane. So it hasn't been just this year. It was last year too. And trying to keep that interception streak alive coming up next week. And as I scan, I don't see other injury news.
There still has to be something. I mean, I get the load management, like your favorite baseball team, they'll sit out guys randomly each week, or like you said, Popovich in basketball. There had to be something besides just player management for him to sit out.
Yeah. And I see that Michael Gelkin of the Morning News, right? Yeah, I think Morning News, Michael Gelkin. Yeah, him and David Moore. But Mike McCarthy says he could have returned if he needed to. It was bothering him at half. What was bothering him, Coach? May have taken a cleat to his back in the first half. So that can't feel good. But McCarthy said that Diggs has begun his campaign for NFC Defensive Player of the Month in October, too. He got that. We didn't mention that earlier, but he got NFC Defensive Player of the Month in September. That was announced earlier this week. Oh, yeah, and this is a quote tweet from Michael Gelkin, quote tweeting himself, very 2021. But Diggs was managing some tightness in his back late in the game. So all that BS about the player management, again, all lies, Josh. We spot the lies as good Cowboys fans
Well,
that we are.
That makes sense more that he aggravated something. They didn't want to make it worse. I mean, that makes sense. Just saying we're giving this perfectly healthy cornerback the rest of the day off so he doesn't get hurt. Like, I'd understand that more at your line positions than cornerback, which, I mean, they can get hurt still, but they're not the ones that are right there in the middle of the action, where I don't understand how 17 offensive linemen in a game don't leave on each play. But yeah, that makes sense. If he was nursing something they didn't want to make worse, they were winning by 22, even with giving up touchdowns on both the drives he was out, they still won. So that makes sense.
My prediction now, this, like I joked last week, the Dallas media, they've got to find these little things to talk about for the shows. You know, they got to fill these segments, and it's going to be, is Diggs healthy? What's he going to do? Is he going to play against the Giants? You know, they'll vamp 15, 30 minutes 4 different times during a show. Hey, why don't we just wait and see who shows up and plays? But it looks like, I mean, he's a baller. Where's my name tag here? How am I pointing to this? Where's my name tag there? JP Trayvon Heath. That is my shout out. He is quickly going up the list of my favorite Cowboys in the modern era as I Haven't formed that list, but man, I like ball players, and he just has that look of ball players. Two funny things, or two interesting things I thought to end things, Josh, because I appreciate you popping on, because I know you have to at least get out. The family counts the most, even ahead of our Dallas football Cowboys. Imagine that. So, as I've told you, with my Sunday schedule, usually I'm watching on trying to play the catch up and doing the genius 15-second toggle ahead on the game. But Greg Olson is fantastic at color commentary. I don't know if you really think about things or if that's just me as the broadcast nerd, but I've been a Kevin Burkhardt fanboy forever. And I think him and Olsen go well together. For a while, I was just like, who is this? He is great. He is succinct, obviously had the knowledge. And when he said he played for the Panthers, he said my time there, but he didn't go overboard with it. I was like, Greg that played for the Panthers? And it took me forever, but it was Greg Olson. So did you have any hot takes? Did you notice? I mean, we don't get the we as the fans. I'm not saying we as the Cowboys. I'm not that type of fan who drops that we bomb out there. But what do you think about Greg Olson? My long-winded way to ask you. I thought he was fantastic. Or do you even have an opinion one way or the other?
No, I think he's good. Like I'm not like you, where I watch a good portion of the game to hear the people. Obviously, with your profession and everything you've got, you listen closer than I do. But he's definitely a top-notch. I guess I base mine more on. I really get entertained by the really bad ones. Like, yes. My goodness, they can't. And he doesn't give anything bad to make fun of him about. And he brings a lot of insight to the game. I know I haven't seen it personally from him, but in general, everybody likes to say this guy hates my team. And so I assume there's probably some of that out there for the Cowboys today. But if there was, then I think it was totally unwarranted, because he did a great job of just being insightful, not being, I mean, all of them, the national guys for the most part, they don't lean towards one way or another. They're pretty good at it. And he definitely was that. But this is only his first or second year, I think. I mean, it wasn't too long ago he was playing. So he's jumped on like.
Your favorite announcer.
From the Gold Glove winner. Look at this.
Anyway, for those that don't know our friendship or haven't kept up, we mentioned it a few times on our show about Josh's obsession with bad announcers and Hawk Harrelson.
Yes, he is. He's the best or the worst, but I think Greg Olson did a great job. And every time I see him, he's definitely one that doesn't make my list of bad ones that I just have to listen to. So generally, if you're really liking him and I'm not noticing anything to make fun of, then he must be pretty good at his job.
All right. One of the giggliest moments that I watched a couple of times. Again, it wasn't like I was just falling on the floor crying, laughing. But when the ball went out of bounds, it kind of floated, and Matt Rule tried to catch the ball coming to him on the sideline. And he looked like all of us trying to catch a football. And he played, linebacker at Penn State. So he's an athletic human being at almost the highest level. I think he made, all right, did he play in the NFL? He has some athletic prowess to him, but he looked like a lot of us. And then the assistant coach or some quality control person was there and just quickly handed him the football. Did that make you giggle as much as it did me? Because I got a big chuckle out of that. He was just kind of fumbling and stumbling with the ball, because you don't see the coach with the ball in his hands that much. You see in the NBA by nature of the highlights, but you don't see, I don't know. And I guess we saw Garrett a lot because he was a quarterback, so he could handle himself, obviously. But I don't know. Matt Rule, just it made me giggle, him kind of fumbling and stumbling trying to get the ball.
It's been a great podcast partner here for you, but I didn't see a second of that. Like, okay. I was just watching plays as they came on. I was doing some work for this other thing I do, and I watched the whole game. But yeah, I watched the whole game, but I didn't see much on the side. I heard him say something about it, and so I've got nothing to add to it. Although he was a defensive player, so that would lend you more to think that he doesn't know how to handle a ball.
It was funny. I'm sure it'll be on YouTube somewhere. Maybe not worth going back to seek it out. But me likey.
Yeah, I'll go back and watch the full game later when it has my undivided attention. But
yeah, just for that one play.
Just for that, I'll watch 3.5 hours. I'll tell the whole family. They can't watch anything on TV for the rest of the week. So we can see what JP was laughing about with the Matt Rule trying to fumble the ball around.
Here, kids, gather around. Uncle JP. He said this was fun.
Even better. Make them watch it with me.
All right, next up, Jason Garrett and the Milquetoast Giants, but I should not get too overconfident because those Giants win in overtime today against the Saints. And, so 3:25, we get back into primetime action. So this time next week, we will have a Cowboys-Giants game to be watching. And then, well, if you're willing, we'll wrap it up again. So thank you much, sir. I know you got to get going, but appreciate you.
That's fun. Go Cowboys.
Yes, sir. How about them Cowboys? That's Josh. I'm JP. You can catch the Texas Porch on any of our fine podcast outlets. We're live after Cowboys games on Facebook and YouTube, and we've been going live for those Wednesday, Thursday, midweek-ish shows as well. We'll have another one coming up this week as well. But you can check it all out on the Mitch Design, the TexasPorch.com. Really helps us if you like our Facebook page. Obviously, share the feeds if you can, and also subscribe and tell a friend if you're so inclined. Have a great rest of this day. God bless. Go Cowboys. We'll talk to you next time out here on the Texas Porch. I love you, Treyvon Diggs.